Good morning, students. Today we are going to start the next chapter, that is environment movement. Environment and health. Environment and health. Is there any body or health issues for environment? Yes, environment also similar to our human being, like any other being. It also should stay healthy. Only then all the other forms, all the other life forms that is depending on the environment can remain healthier. So, environment and health are very related things. Health, according to WHO, what is environment health? It is the state of complete physical, mental, and social well-being. Okay, in that juncture, quality of environment is very important. Our environment, whatever environment we are living, it should be healthier for making us healthy. And next is about the origin of the concept of public health. And that concept, healthy environment, that concept that came after the first industrial revolution. First industrial revolution happened when in the occurred between the late 18th century to 19th century, where in Europe and US. What are its objectives? What are the objectives of public health? To keep environment healthier, clean, that is hygiene, and to create awareness about individual hygiene and management and control of communicable diseases. At the same time, it should uh, check is there active participation of government and health services there in the diagnosis and prevention of diseases. All these are its objectives. Um, the context of 2030 agenda for sustainable development. Sustainable development. Sustainable means sustain because whatever we are thinking as development, it it be it to be a development only if it is a sustainable one, because it should not exploit or hamper any other any other environment or living being, anything. So it means a balance, a delicate balance between development and healthy environment. That is the thing. So we need development. Without development, there is no progress. So development is necessary, but it should be a sustainable one by considering the environment conservational aspects. Understand? Okay. Yeah, development is required. Development is necessary, but it should be in a balance, in a harmony with a with maintaining a healthy environment. Its core part is the core part of that agenda is a 17 sustainable development goals. That agenda is core part composed of 17 sustainable development goals. I call it SDGs, and that goals need to be performed act by all countries to have this delicate balance. Okay, Then we are going to next part, that is environment and development. What is the trend? Development always leads to degradation of the environment. Wherever we see development, there all some sort of degradation is happening to the environment. As a solution for that degradation came the idea sustainable development. Sustainable, sustain means നിലനിർത്തുക, sustainable development. Okay. The main theme of sustainable development is development without any concern for environment is not endurable. Endurable means it will not persist, it will not stay long. So, whatever development that we are doing that development without giving any concern for the environment. It is not endurable. So, economic development and ecological conservation must go hand in hand, go parallel. Only then there is sustenance. Okay. There's a definition by Brundtland Commission. Development that meets the needs of the present without compromising the ability of future generation to meet their own needs. That means we can develop, but at the same time we need to maintain, we need to keep something for future generation. That should be all our developments should be such a type. Here, according to Brundtland Commission, what is the definition for development? Development or sustainable development. Then the sustainable development means it means the needs of present and also need to maintain something for the future generation to meet their own needs. Okay. Then that Brundtland report, they made a report based on all these points and it is called Our Common Future. It's a report prepared by this Brundtland. Brundtland. That report's name is Our Common Future. Key aspects of sustainable development. Some key aspects are there. First one is intergeneration equity. Inter means between generation there should be equality. Means minimize adverse impacts on resource and environment for future generation. So whatever we are using, whatever we are exploiting, whatever we are taking from our environment, while using that we need to keep in our mind that our future generation also need all these things. So we need to have a balance. We don't barely exploit any of those resources. So over exploitation we need to avoid. That is intergeneration equity. Clear? Then intra-generation, within the same generation itself, some equality should maintain. Intra-generation, the same generation, what equality we need to concern? There should not be any gaps between wealth-wise and also between nation-wise. That means one nation should not use any of the resources completely or predominantly without giving to other nations. And also based on the wealth gaps. Don't um, ponder all the resources by the wealthier section only. It should be equally distributed, equally make it available to all sections of people. There should not be any gaps with respect to wealth or with respect to nation. Okay, and also technologies should address problem of both developing and underdeveloping countries. Whatever technologies are developing, that technologies, whatever technologies we are newly creating, all those technologies need to tackle both the problems of both developing and underdeveloping countries. Okay, that is intergeneration equity and intra-generation equity. Then some important measures are there for having a sustainable development. Using appropriate technology means should be locally adaptable. If we create some technology and later only found that is not applicable in local situation, then there is no use of that. So whatever technology we are creating should be locally adaptable, should be eco-friendly, resource efficient, don't waste too much resource, and should be culturally sustainable. And design should be suitable with the nature. Then we need to stick with the reduce, reuse, whatever thing we can reuse, we need to reuse. Whatever parts we can recycle, we need to recycle, instead of going behind new one each and every time. That is 3 R's. And also promoting environmental education and awareness. Need to promote environmental education and awareness. And through this way we can help to change the thinking pattern and attitude of people towards our earth and environment. So education and awareness is very important. Then resource utilization should be as per the carrying capacity. That means there is a capacity for the environment to provide resources to each and every living being. The term, the environment is capable to satisfy the necessary requirement for all the living beings, but it cannot satisfy the greediness satyagraham. So say capacity, we don't over exploit the capacity of the environment for any type of resource. Okay, then improving the quality of life. Quality of life means that should cover both social, cultural, and economic dimensions. All these dimensions we need to improve the quality of life. Next we are going to different movements. Movements in relation to conserve the environment. Which are the movements? First one is Chipko movement. What's the base? What pave way for the formation, for the generation of such a movement? Before the Chipko movement, there happened a pioneer movement. Pioneer means first. That movement was against the indiscriminate tree felling led by, and that protest was led by Vaishnoi's woman. Her name is Amruta Devi of Rajasthan, because she protests the indiscriminate tree felling. How she protests? Along with her, there are other 363 Vaishnavis also there. How they protect that trees? They sacrifices their life by hugging those trees, and those person came to lock down that trees, fell down the trees along with their head. Okay, in that way they sacrifices their life, and through that sacrifice, which trees they protect? Kejadi trees, and event happens as far back in 1731. A Kejadi trees picture is given here for a better understanding. I took the image of its leaf and flower also. Okay, then we are moving to Chipko movement, and that pioneer movement happened in 1731. Word Chipko means embrace, to hug. It's a Hindi word. And that movement is a non-violent movement. There is no violence. And it's a community movement. Community movement against what? Against tree felling itself. It is led by women folk. That is another peculiarity. That movement is mainly led by women. In Tehri district of Garhwal district of Uttar Pradesh, when in 1972. Later, that movement spread to other villages under the leadership of Sundarlal Bahuguna and Chandi Prasad Bhatt. Under the leadership of Sundarlal Bahuguna and Chandi Prasad Bhatt. What about its modus operandi? Modus operandi means in what is the way of operation? In what is the nature of that movement? Means a team of environment activities came and embraced the trees to physically resist its felling. That is a modus operandi. In that way, they resist the tree felling. Regarding the leadership, I already told you here itself, again repetition. Spread to other village under the leadership of Sundarlal Bahuguna and Chandi Prasad Bhatt. Next slide. And what are the message? Message that is enlightened by the leaders. They preach them. Every standing green trees protect highlands from landslides, and also the valley people from the devastating floods. So we need to conserve, we need to protect the trees that they teach all local people. So landslides we need to prevent, and also floods we need to prevent. For that we need trees. And uh, and also they teach them, or they make people aware about the fact that forests are the main product that we need to take from the forest. Sorry, the main products that we need to take the forest are soil, water, oxygen, and not the timber. Timber we need to conserve for our better life status. Okay. Then what's the significance of the movement? It created a country-wide general consciousness. A general consciousness built up because of that movement. Consciousness about what? About the importance of forest conservation. And it is well known as a eco development movement at grassroots level. Means from the foundation level it is an eco development movement, and that movement helped to unite people and also helped to focus attention on the mismanagement of forest resources. And regarding the place where that movement initiated, it was in the Allakananda Valley in Tehri Garhwal district. Allakananda Valley. What is the significance, speciality of that place? and that place previously faced a flood, a great flood, 1970, and because of that flood, a deep impression was formed on that hill folk. So they choose that area to start that movement, and that movement got an award. That award is called the Right Livelihood Award. This award is meant for the dedication to the conservation, restoration, and ecologically sound use of India's natural resources. That's about Chipko movement. Okay, next we are moving to the another movement, Narmada Bachao Andolan, otherwise NBA. From the name itself, we understand that something relating with the Narmada river. Okay, Narmada Bachao. Bachao means protect. So about the movement, it is otherwise called Save Narmada movement. It started in 1985, means later to the Chipko movement. What's the purpose? Purpose mainly to gain justice, to seek social and environmental justice. This is for whom? For those who are directly affected by Sardar Sarovar Dam construction. Because of the construction of dam, uh, some are left to worstly affected. To those people, we need to give environmental and social justice. For availing that justice, originated this Narmada Bachao Andolan. That movement is carried out by local farmers, environmentalists, and tribal people. Who is the leader? In the initial phase, the pioneer leader is Medha Patkar. We all know her. Even then, I am showing you a picture. It's Medha Patkar. She is the pioneer leader of Narmada Bachao Andolan. Okay, next slide. Other supporters also there, very eminent persons. They are Baba Amte. Baba Amte is a social activist, work for rehabilitation and empowerment of leprosy victims. Then Booker Prize winner Arundhati Roy also there, and films are Amir Khan also there. Okay. So what about the modus operandi of this movement? By gaining court actions, by securing some stay orders like that, by organizing rallies, hunger strikes. All these are in the path of non-violence. So it's that movement also a non-violent movement. This movement also got that Right Livelihood Award. Award is gone to Medha Patkar and Baba Amte in 1991. Arenas means it focused on which all areas, that movement. Um, it protested against the failure in providing proper rehabilitation and resettlement for the people, those who are evicted because of the construction of Sardar Sarovar Dam. Evicted means they are displaced. Those people, they are actually deserve a resettlement and rehabilitation. So as the government is not providing that, the movement protest against that. They protest for giving justice to those people, those who are evicted from the construction site of Sardar Sarovar Dam by the government. And also it is focused on the preservation of environment and ecosystems of the valley. And also it it stand to reduce the height of the dam from proposed 130 centimeter to 88. It always demanded to reduce the height to 88 centimeter from the proposed 130 centimeter. Because of the protests later, that constructors got permission to construct dam with a height of 90 centimeter, and later that dam finished in 2006 and is inaugurated by Prime Minister Narendra Modi in 2017. Okay, then we need to understand something about that dam. Sardar Sarovar Narmada project. What is that? What's the purpose? It's meant to support the irrigation and also power generation and also drinking water solution for people of Gujarat, Madhya Pradesh, Maharashtra, and Rajasthan. So it's a need, but at the same time we need to uh, take care of the local people who are residing there. Okay. That dam is a huge man-made lake, and that lake is the second largest concrete dam next to Grand Coulee Dam across River Columbia in US. It's about Sardar Sarovar Narmada. Next, we are moving to another moment, that is Madhav Gadgil report. Is a report. What is that? Uh, because a panel, a committee is formed with ecologists, technical experts. They uh, they meet together in Bangalore and form a panel. Why they meet together? To assess the biodiversity and the environmental issues of Western Ghats. Because they meet together mainly to study about the Western Ghats. And that panel have a chairman. He's a world famous ecologist, Professor Madhav Gadgil. So it is named so. Okay, that's a Madhav Gadgil report. And as part of this report, the Western Ghat is marked as a ecologically sensitive area, ESA. In short form, we are calling it as ESA, ecologically sensitive area. After analysis, compilation, and assessment made by this panel, uh, Western Ghats Ecology Expert Panel, that's a panel. They analyze different aspects, they compare different data and make some assessment, and then declare the Western Ghats as an ecologically sensitive area. Next, after considering as an ecologically sensitive area, there are started some efforts for protecting that fragile ecosystem against indiscriminate industrialization, mining, and unregulated development. They try for that. What are the aims? Aims first one, to assess the current ecological status of the Western Ghats region. What's the current ecological status? Next, to demarcate, to identify or to spot some ecological sensitive areas, and also to recommend those areas under Environment Protection Act 1986. That's next aim. Uh, then to add a 39 serial sites of Western Ghats in the World Heritage List. In the Western Ghats, they located some 39 serial sites, and they suggested that these sites need to be included in the World Heritage Site list. Next, they assured the participation of concerned state government and local community in conserving the Western Ghats, for protecting the Western Ghats with regard to its various aspects. That report assured the participation of both state government and local community. That is other aim. Then next is to find out any other relevant environmental or ecological issues relating to Western Ghats that also need to address. That's there another key. Then the last one is to evaluate that panelists uh, accounted. They are insisted to find out what would be the consequences if construct a dam, that is Gundia and Adirapalli hydroelectric project. If it is fulfilled, what would be the consequences? Is it good or bad? And that panel is inducted to evaluate those consequences. They are asked to study the consequences. Consequences of what? Consequences of Gundia and Adirapalli hydroelectric projects. At the same time, it also has to uh, give recommendations. Recommendations about what? Recommendations about sanctioning new license for mining in Goa. For sanctioning new mining license, they means that report bears, that panel is asked to give their recommendations. What measures, what decisions need to take in relating with all those things. And what were the major recommendations made by the report, Gaddi report? It recommends to restrict all developmental activities like mining, construction of factories, thermal power plants. It is not good in such an ecologically sensitive area like Western Ghats. That is one recommendation. And also it asks for curtail, means to stop all new dam projects. And also it proclaimed the need to restructure the present system of governance of the environment by giving active participation of local governing bodies and local authorities. So, the present system need to restructure by giving participation to local governing bodies and local authorities. Then in that way we can give more care locally, because as it is, as the governing that power is going to local bodies, that much conservation we can give to the Western Ghats. And also it recommend the formation of a Western Ghat Ecology Authority, and that authority should be the statutory authority under the Ministry of Environment and Forests, and it should have powers that is mentioned under section 3 of Environmental Protection Act 1986. So they recommend the formation of such a authority, and that authority should have all the powers that is mentioned in this Environmental Act. Then what are the criticism? Main criticism is that that report is too environment friendly and less farmer friendly. That is one criticism. And also next one, for the formation of a national level authority, there is Western Ghats Ecological Authority. It's not that much accepted in all scenarios. It is not that much accepted. There is another criticism. Next. And also, against considering the entire Western Ghats as a eco-sensitive area, if we consider the entire Western Ghats as an eco-sensitive, then it is not providing, it is not supporting any of the energy requirement developments, or any other development related activities. All those activities will not is not possible if we consider the whole Western Ghats as a eco-sensitive area. So that's a criticism. And also that report failed to find solution for the revenue loss because of the implementation of its recommendation. If the all the recommendation put forward by the report, if it is implemented, that by the way there is some chance for revenue losses. That report cannot give any solution for to clear that revenue losses. That is another criticism. And also the sand mining mafia, they manipulated that report as an anti-farmer and anti-people for their own selfish benefits. And the last one is huge volume of the report, and that English language it hindered its public acceptance. Common local people cannot understand. It is not reaching up to their level. There is another problem. Okay, with this we finish today's class. Thank you.